Welcome, brave explorers, to another pulse-pounding Sunday special. I'm Angkor Pundit, and tonight, we're embarking on a perilous journey into the deepest, darkest realms of the unknown. Are you ready to face a night filled with terror, mystery, and spine-chilling encounters that will leave you breathless? Today, we're delving into 4 heart-stopping and breathtaking tales. Prepare for a thrilling adventure that will keep you on the edge of your seat from start to finish. Story 1: The Mysterious Roommate. Today, I'm going to share a story with you that was told to me by Ankit. This story is from my own experiences, as I was traveling and Ankit was driving his truck when he first called me. Let's dive straight into the story without wasting any time. 5 years ago, Ankit went to Canada to complete his higher education, just like many others who travel to countries like the USA, Australia, or Canada for their studies. However, what often remains hidden is the significant financial burden these students face, including large loans and borrowed money. Ankit was also sent to Canada in a similar manner. Ankit hails from Ambala and told me that he went to Canada with a friend who has been his constant companion even to this day. He described how life in Canada is very different and the temperatures are often below zero. When Ankit moved there, he rented an apartment, which they call a condo, for $1,000 per month. He and his friend were studying while managing their expenses and responsibilities due to the loans they had taken. One day, Ankit received a visit from a girl named Ritu who lived in the apartment across from them. She told Ankit that she had been kicked out of her apartment by the other girls she was living with. Ankit was surprised because it was 2 a.m. and he wondered why she was being turned away. Ritu explained that the other girls did not want to live with her anymore because she would often talk to herself at night, make strange noises, and behave oddly without her phone. Ankit tried to reason with the girls, suggesting that maybe Ritu was just sleep-talking or had some medical condition. Despite the initial reluctance, Ankit and his friend decided to let Ritu stay with them since they couldn't afford another rent and were already struggling with part-time jobs and college commitments. For the first few days, everything seemed fine, but soon strange things began to happen. Here's where the story takes a chilling turn. Ankit told me that there was something unusual about the girl. He explained that she never slept through the night. She was active during the day, in the afternoon, and even at night. As soon as Ritu moved into their apartment, everything changed. Ankit mentioned that since they were 2 guys living together, their place was often messy. However, after Ritu arrived, if they left a glass of tea or a cup anywhere, it would be spotlessly clean and back in its place within half an hour. Ritu had a strong inclination towards cleanliness and kept the entire house very clean. As time passed, Ankit shared that Ritu would go to a restaurant in the morning, attend college, and work at a warehouse at night. It was puzzling to see how one female could manage so much work. One day, Ankit and his friend were in their room when they heard Ritu talking to someone through the gap in the wooden door of her room. They were surprised because it sounded like she was having a conversation with someone, but there was no one visible. Ankit called out to Ritu, asking her to open the door and explain who she was talking to. Ritu opened the door and tried to act normally, saying she wasn't talking to anyone. However, Ankit and his friend were convinced they had heard her speaking. They tried to convince her to tell them the truth, appealing to their shared Indian background and offering support. But Ritu insisted she was alone. You won't believe what happened next. When Ritu finally seemed ready to reveal something, a voice came from behind her. "Hi, my name is Jacqueline, and I've been with this girl for the last 2 years." Ankit was shocked and couldn't understand who was speaking since no one else was visible in the room. Imagine your friend engaging in strange activities and then hearing an unseen voice respond when you ask who they're talking to. The voice continued in English, "You know, take tension. I'm not here to scare you." It was trying to comfort them, saying she wasn't there to harm them but was instead living with Ritu. Ankit and his friend were stunned, their eyes wide with shock. When Ankit first encountered this situation, He discussed it with his friends and thought that maybe Ritu had a split personality. However, what they were experiencing now was far more shocking. They were hearing voices of entities they couldn't see. They considered the possibility that Ritu might have set up a loudspeaker to create the illusion, but they soon realized that wasn't the case. For 2 to 3 days, they were in a state of shock and couldn't return to their normal selves. Ritu approached them after a few days and reassured them that the other girl wouldn't harm them. She offered to pay their rent if they allowed her to stay, which seemed like a convenient solution given their financial struggles. Ankit and his friend decided to ignore the strange occurrences as long as their rent was being paid. However, one day while they were dancing to a Punjabi song, they noticed Ritu dancing with an invisible entity. Her hands were being moved as if someone was dancing with her, and this sight left them in a state of horror. Eventually, Ritu explained the situation to them. She told them that 2 years ago, when she moved into a new flat, she unknowingly took a room where a girl named Jacqueline had been living. Jacqueline's spirit was still present in that room because she had either been murdered or committed suicide there. The reason behind Jacqueline's death was that her parents were always fighting due to her mother's drug addiction, which is quite common in Canada. One day, her mother's friends, who were also heavy drug users, killed Jacqueline's father in front of her. This traumatic event led to Jacqueline's death. Ritu's mother, who was struggling financially after her husband's death and her own drug addiction, rented out the room without disclosing its dark history. Since Ritu was alone and new to the area at that time, she formed a bond with Jacqueline's spirit. When Ankit and his friend verified Ritu's background, they found out that she had been kicked out of 12 to 13 hostels due to her nocturnal conversations with an unseen entity. Ankit explained that it became common for them to see Ritu talking to Jacqueline for hours every night. They asked Ritu how she managed to be so active all the time, working at a restaurant in the morning, attending college, and working at a warehouse at night. Ritu revealed that Jacqueline took over during the night shifts at the warehouse. Despite the eerie situation, Ankit and his friend showed courage and continued living in the flat until they completed their studies and moved to America to drive trucks for a living. Even after 5 years, Ritu still lives in that apartment. Ankit mentioned that whenever they call Ritu now, she warns them not to ask about Jacqueline again. It's astonishing to note that while these men are driving trucks to pay off their debts, Ritu has not only cleared all her debts, but has also established a successful business. Her ability to work day and night shifts is supported by Jacqueline's presence, which ensures she gets enough rest as well. Ankit concluded by saying that whenever they talk to Ritu now, they avoid discussing Jacqueline because Ritu prefers it that way. So, be cautious and aware of such situations. Story 2: The Curse of the Funeral Clothes. This story is narrated by Sonal, who is from Delhi. Sonal told me that her father is from Haryana, and when she was 13 years old, something happened that had a significant impact on her life, though she wasn't directly responsible for it. Let's dive straight into the story without wasting any time. Sonal, who is now 26 years old, was 13 at the time of this incident. It was during her summer vacation, and she planned to visit her aunt in Haryana. Her aunt also lived in Haryana, so Sonal made a plan to go there and informed her father about it. Her father, aware of the different environment and culture in Haryana compared to Delhi, advised her carefully before sending her off. Sonal was excited because she thought she would have a lot of fun with her aunt's children, who were around her age. When she arrived in Haryana, she was warmly welcomed, and everyone made sure she had plenty to eat and enjoy. As a child, her main desires were to have her favorite foods, some money, and gifts when she left. Sonal mentioned that everything was going well at her aunt's place. Her aunt's older daughter was skilled in sewing and embroidery, which is a common hobby among girls in rural areas of Haryana. Sonal enjoyed the local cuisine, such as ghee and parathas, and appreciated the fresh atmosphere. Before leaving, Sonal's aunt and cousins gave her several gifts, including earrings, suits, and jeans. She was very happy because she knew that these gifts were special and made just for her. Upon returning home to Delhi, Sonal showed her father all the gifts she had received. However, soon after her return, her behavior began to change significantly. For instance, if her father talked to her, she would give rude responses. Her body became weak, and it seemed as though the nutritious food she had in the village was not available in Delhi. Sonal's desire to visit her aunt increased after returning to Delhi. She lost interest in going to school and eating, and she started arguing a lot more. Although Sonal was the most loved child in her family, during this time, everyone's attention was focused on her older brother, which introduced a sense of jealousy in Sonal. After that, as the days passed, a time came when Sonal and her brother had a severe argument, and her brother hit her quite badly, as is common in sibling fights. When their father returned home in the evening, Sonal told him about the incident and asked him to scold her brother so he wouldn't hit her again. Her father reassured her that he would take care of it and ensure her brother didn't raise his hand again. Sonal felt relieved and went to sleep. The next day, when she woke up, she saw her brother walking around calmly and comfortably, which made her feel even more resentful. She thought that despite her brother hitting her so badly, their father had not scolded him. Sonal mentioned that she had some upcoming exams and was also stressed about them. However, suddenly and without any clear reason, Sonal decided to take a drastic step. Her father was getting ready and had gone into the bathroom when Sonal took his wallet, removed the money, locked the bathroom door from the outside, gathered her belongings, and left for the New Delhi railway station. Sonal had made up her mind that she would not return home for now, no matter where she went. Although she had limited money, she thought it would be enough to manage something on her own. It's worth noting that this was 13 years ago, and the amount of money she had might not have been substantial by today's standards. Despite the challenges, Sonal reached the New Delhi railway station and saw a train heading towards Maharashtra. She decided to board it with her belongings. The journey took an entire day, and she eventually arrived at the Jhansi railway station. After arriving at Jhansi, Sonal wondered if her family might be missing her, but she hadn't considered why her behavior had changed so drastically. You might also be wondering why a girl from Delhi, with everything seemingly fine in her life, would make such a decision. Upon reaching the Jhansi railway station, Sonal got off the train and found herself questioning what to do next. She realized that running away from home was one thing, but figuring out what to do next was another. She compared it to how a thief might feel during their first theft, unsure if they are doing the right thing. Sonal decided to call her mother from the railway station. This was a very emotional moment for her. When she called home, her mother didn't say anything that made Sonal feel like her family was missing her terribly. Instead, her mother told her to be careful and come back home. Feeling that no one was taking initiative to stop her or express how much they missed her, Sonal sat down, cried for 15 to 20 minutes, and then composed herself enough to call her father. She told him that she was at the Jhansi railway station and wanted to come back home. "I need to come to you no matter what," Sonal's father reacted by saying, "Son, it's okay. You are very far away and have been traveling since morning. Here's what you should do. Go to the nearest police station, explain your situation, and have them contact me." Sonal followed these instructions and went to the nearest police station. She explained her situation clearly, and the police contacted her father. Sonal was taken to an NGO near Jhansi, and the next day, she was shifted to another NGO in Meerut where her father came to receive her. This moment was very embarrassing for Sonal, who felt ashamed of her actions and the big step she had taken. Despite this, her father was more concerned about why Sonal had done such a thing. He brought her back home, comforted her, and repeatedly told her that it was okay to make mistakes in anger sometimes. During my video, I want to emphasize that you should not be motivated to take such drastic steps. Now let's continue the story. When Sonal returned home, she heard some news about her aunt's family in Haryana. Her aunt's father had attempted to set himself on fire in the kitchen by turning on the gas cylinder and throwing a match. However, he survived due to some fortunate circumstances. Sonal's parents were looking at the bags containing the suits and other clothes she had brought back from her aunt's house. They were puzzled about why such incidents were happening. Sonal's father suspected that there might be some supernatural influence at play. He consulted a pundit, a priest, and a tantric, a practitioner of occult practices, who explained that the clothes Sonal was wearing were likely from a funeral or last rites ceremony. In many cultures, it is believed that clothes given during such ceremonies should not be accepted as they can bring bad luck or negative energy. The pundit told them that these clothes were probably given to Sonal's aunt by someone who had performed the last rites and then passed them on to Sonal through her aunt's daughter. Sonal had been wearing these clothes, which were influenced by the energy of the deceased. Sonal's father asked the tantric what they should do with these clothes. The tantric advised them to destroy or dispose of the clothes immediately to prevent any further negative influence on Sonal. They threw the clothes into the dustbin. From that day on, Sonal has been fine. The message here is clear. Never accept any items from your relatives that might have been given during funeral or last rites ceremonies. Story 3: Beyond the Grave. This bone-chilling story was narrated by Narayan, who resides in Firozpur, Punjab. This tale was told to him by his grandparents, and upon hearing it, I felt compelled to share it with you so that this story reaches as many people as possible. Narayan asked if you believe in the messengers of death, or if there is something that warns us of our impending death, or if someone comes to take us after we die. This incident is related to such phenomena. It is said that many years ago, around 20 to 30 years back, an incident occurred in Firozpur, Punjab, that shocked the entire region. There was a family consisting of a father, a mother, and their beloved son, Ankit, who was between 19 and 20 years old. Ankit would attend college during the day and spend his evenings playing with friends before returning home. Ankit's father loved him dearly, having waited for many years to have a child. One day, Ankit's father saw some strange men outside their house. These men were dressed in tirsanalonal attire like Dudas and had long beards. They looked like agoras, a type of ascetic. They were saying that Ankit would be killed that day and that his death was inevitable. Ankit's father heard this from inside the house and became very frightened. When Ankit returned home, his father warned him not to go outside, fearing something might happen to him. Despite Ankit's skepticism about the situation, his father locked him in a room for the entire night. The next morning, when Ankit needed to use the bathroom, his father allowed him but remained anxious. As soon as Ankit went to the bathroom, the agoras voices were heard again, saying it was time for Ankit's death. When Ankit's father checked on him after he used the bathroom, he found that Ankit had died due to heart failure. The sight of his son in such a state was devastating for Ankit's father. Although Ankit's mother was not as attached to him as his father was, she too was deeply affected by his death. That night, everything was finalized with the funeral rites. The next day, an Agori came to Ankit's father and told him that if he wanted to meet his son again, he should go to the Rambagh cremation ground at midnight. Ankit's father was overjoyed at the prospect of seeing his son again, but did not realize that once a soul leaves the body, it no longer has any earthly connections. Ankit's father eagerly waited for 11:30 p.m. and then headed to the cremation ground half an hour away. He was torn between hoping to see his son and fearing that this might be some cruel joke or trap set by the agoras. However, driven by his love and emotions, he reached the cremation ground exactly at midnight. There, he saw someone sitting on a peepal tree and heard Ankit's voice calling out to him, "Father, I am here. Come and meet me." Ankit's father was overjoyed to see him, and deep down, he hoped that his son would return to him. They began to talk, and Ankit's father asked what had happened to him. Ankit explained that his time to leave had come and that the people his father saw were the messengers of death, Yamduts, who had come to take him. He also mentioned that he had been feeling health issues, possibly heart problems, which led to his heart failure. Ankit's father became very emotional and started crying. As he looked down while crying, he witnessed something that you might find hard to believe and could be very frightening. Ankit, who was sitting on the peepal tree, stretched out his hand as far as possible and scratched his father's leg deeply. Ankit's father cried out in pain and looked at Ankit, who told him, "Today, I have taken back everything that you owed me, and everything you gave me is now settled. Leave now before I kill you." Ankit's father was in a state of shock, realizing that the person he was talking to might not be his deceased son, but perhaps a spirit or ghost. He understood that the love and connection he felt were misplaced because once a soul leaves the body, all earthly connections are severed. Fearing for his life, Ankit's father ran away from there. This story is well known in Firozpur, and Narayan told me that Ankit's father is still alive today, but the scars on his legs from that incident have never healed despite numerous treatments and visits to doctors. This incident highlights a crucial point. If we believe that a soul remains with us after death, it is not true. In the Mahabharata, when Abhimanyu was killed in the Chakravyuh, Arjuna wanted to meet him again. Lord Krishna explained that Abhimanyu's soul had moved on and would not recognize Arjuna anymore because all earthly relationships end with death. Lord Krishna brought Abhimanyu's spirit before Arjuna, but Abhimanyu's spirit did not recognize Arjuna and said, "I am just a soul, a part of the Supreme Soul, changing bodies and fulfilling my duties." This realization opened Arjuna's eyes to the truth. Similarly, Ankit's father realized that the entity he met was not his son but something else, possibly a spirit or ghost, which was freeing him from his past deeds. This entire story, though old, is worth sharing because it underscores the importance of understanding the nature of the soul and its journey after death. Story 4: When Trust Turns to Terror. This story is from 2022 and takes place in Rajauti, where David lived with his family. David's family has been residing in Haryana for a long time. He mentioned that his family consists of his father, mother, and a brother. They have been living in Rajauti for about 18 years and were leading a good life until an incident changed everything. In this story, you will learn about the festivals we celebrate and the sweets that come with them. You might wonder if there could be something unusual or unexpected in these sweets that we never thought about. When festivals like Diwali or Holi come around, people often bring sweets to share, which we eat without hesitation. David shared that his father was in government service and had been living in Rajauti for a long time. However, last year, his father suddenly quit his government job without informing anyone. When I asked David why this happened, he explained that their family life began to fall apart after a series of strange incidents. David's father is from Bihar and is known for being very sociable and friendly. Over the years, many new people had moved into their neighborhood, and his father had good relations with them. In rural areas, people often become close quickly, forming bonds like those of uncles and aunts. Haryana is known for its warm and welcoming people who are ready to help others if they consider them part of their community. David's father would often visit other people's homes to watch cricket and engage in long conversations. People approached him because he was in government service, hoping to gain some benefit from his position. David's father had no vices and was always ready to share sweets and other treats during festivals with their relatives. However, in 2022, David's father quit his government job without warning. When I pressed David for more details, he revealed that his father had developed an intense desire to start a business. He wanted to open a restaurant or dhaba near the highway and serve non-vegetarian food, despite not being a fan of non-vegetarian cuisine himself. David explained that his father had always followed his passions and interests. Previously, he had studied hotel management, which is why he was so keen on opening a restaurant. Although David and his family did not pressure him much because they trusted him, they were surprised by this sudden change. After quitting his job, David's father started spending late nights with people who enjoyed eating and drinking. His behavior at home became increasingly strange, especially towards his mother. If anyone asked him why he was coming home late, he would sometimes become aggressive, saying he was the breadwinner and no one should question him. David was shocked by this new behavior from his father, which they had never seen before. he realized that the story was heading in a direction that would reveal more about what was happening. I allowed David to continue the story to its completion. David told me that it was during the Diwali festival, and his father had consumed a lot of alcohol while the family was performing puja at home, as is common during Diwali. However, instead of a peaceful celebration, there were arguments at their house. His father was pressuring the children, saying they were idle and not doing anything, despite David being a good student in the 12th grade and his younger brother in the 7th grade. This constant pressure led to daily conflicts in the house. David's mother had started to distance herself from his father, which is often the case when someone receives negative responses and decides to stop approaching the other person. When David's father was given more freedom in this regard, things began to change dramatically. For instance, he started eating non-vegetarian food, which was not liked by anyone in the house. David's father, who was previously very religious and had no vices, had now begun to engage in behaviors that were quite different from his past self. I asked David what they did to address the situation. He explained that they initially tried to manage their father's behavior, but as time passed from 2022 to 2023, his father's actions became more erratic. He would often leave the house at night around 2 or 3 a.m. on his scooter and return by 5 a.m. When questioned about his whereabouts, he would argue with the family, causing tension and distress for his mother. David's mother, who was also from Haryana, had a gentle nature and did not like to confront or argue. The relationship between David's parents had been good previously, but now it was deteriorating. David was deeply saddened by seeing his family fall apart. In 2023, one night when his father left at 3 a.m., David decided to follow him. He quickly called his neighbor and borrowed his scooter to tail his father. What he saw next was shocking. David followed his father to a cremation ground where he parked his scooter outside and went inside. There, he saw his father taking out liquor and meat, mutton or chicken, from his scooter and consuming them near a burning pyre. He was also talking to the pyre as if someone was there. This sight left David stunned. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. He didn't say anything at that moment and returned home without telling his mother anything. He later told me over the phone that he didn't inform his mother because he feared it might give her a heart attack if she knew what he had witnessed. That his father was eating and drinking near a burning pyre and talking to it as if someone was there. After hearing this, I was literally speechless, wondering if what David was saying was true. David continued, explaining that he had seen his father's behavior with his own eyes. The next morning, his father returned home at 5 a.m., slept, and then left again. David followed him once more and found that his father had gone to a village where there was a banyan tree near a pond. There, he sat down, drank liquor, and talked to the banyan tree as if someone was there. Seeing this, David realized that something was amiss with his father, possibly some supernatural influence. As time passed, the financial situation at home began to deteriorate. Their savings were depleting, and even their gold was being sold off. The family was in a state of loss. Sometimes, when David's father returned home drunk, he would fall and become unconscious wherever he fell. The villagers would often call David to come and take his father home. In 2023, David decided to consult a powerful tantric, a practitioner of occult practices, and brought him to their home. As soon as the tantric arrived, David's father's behavior changed dramatically. He started yelling, saying that he would not let the entity leave his body and that he had created a strong bond with it. The tantric understood that David's father was possessed by some entity and decided to perform rituals to exorcise it. The rituals involved tying David's father down and performing exorcisms, which attracted a crowd from the neighborhood. Despite the entity's resistance, the tantric continued the rituals for several hours. Eventually, a voice from within David's father admitted that it was an entity that had been placed there by someone who was jealous of his progress and government job. This person had given David's father a sweet during Diwali that contained black magic or a spell. The entity confessed that it could not leave until it was freed from its own curse. The tantric performed the necessary rituals and gave David's father a talisman to wear, which helped to keep the entity at bay. However, if the talisman ever came off, the entity would return, and the same behavior would resume. David's father was forced to perform daily prayers at the temple for a couple of hours to keep his body pure, but occasionally, he would still consume liquor and meat, allowing the entity to regain control. It has been a year since these events began, and while there has been some improvement after taking him to Mehandipur, a place known for exorcisms, the situation is still not fully resolved. David conveyed a message through this video: be cautious of sweets or gifts given during festivals, as they might contain black magic or spells. It is advisable to offer such items at a temple before consuming them, especially in today's world where people often harbor jealousy and malice towards others. David's family has been severely affected. His father lost his government job. There are constant conflicts with his mother and children, and he sometimes loses control and becomes violent. The family remains in a state of distress and regret over what has happened. Before we wrap up, I kindly ask for your support. Subscribe to Horror Stories and hit the bell icon to be the first to catch our latest updates. Stay connected, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.